Today, we're going on a microscopic journey deep inside a part of your body you use every single day, but probably don't know as well as you think. Let's dive in.
That right there, that simple statement, it changes everything. We tend to think of our teeth as just these simple, hard tools for chewing, but the reality is so much more amazing. They are living, dynamic structures with their own defenses, their own microscopic workers, and even the power to heal themselves.
So before we can even look inside the tooth, we have to start with its first line of defense, a brilliant biological system that's on the job for you 24/7.
And that unsung hero? It's your saliva. Seriously, it's so much more than just water. Think of it as this all-in-one defense system. It's packed with antibacterial proteins that hunt down and destroy harmful bacteria. It acts as a buffer, neutralizing those nasty acids from plaque. And get this, it's constantly bathing your teeth in minerals like calcium and phosphate to help rebuild the enamel. And yeah, of course, it's always rinsing everything away. It's pretty much nature's perfect guardian for your mouth.
But, even the best defenses can be broken. When the bacteria and plaque finally manage to chew their way through that tough outer enamel, a whole new battle begins on the inside. So let's go meet the defenders in there.
And this is where we get to the core of it all. The tooth isn't just a rock, it's a living structure built and maintained by a team of incredibly specialized little cells.
Okay, meet our main character, the odontoblast. Now, that sounds like a complicated word, but its job is super important. This is the cell that actually builds the main structure of your tooth. It creates dentin, which is that sensitive, living layer right underneath the hard enamel shell. The architect analogy is absolutely perfect. These little guys line the inside of the tooth, in the pulp chamber, and for your entire life, they can lay down new layers of dentin. They build the tooth to begin with, and they can also rush in to make repairs if the tooth is under attack, trying to build up new walls to protect the delicate nerve and blood supply on the inside.
So we've got our heroes, the odontoblasts, but every story needs a villain, right? Well, in this story, the villains are the bacteria that have made it past the outer defenses.
So once bacteria get through that enamel shield, they start attacking the dentin. And if that infection keeps going, it can reach the pulp, that soft center filled with nerves and blood vessels. And that's where the real trouble starts. It can lead to something called pulpal necrosis, which basically means the living tissue inside the tooth dies, and that can put the whole tooth at risk.
And this is what that looks like in the real world. What you're seeing in this X-ray is a young, immature tooth where an infection has taken hold. See that dark area right at the tip of the root? Yeah, that's the infection. What's worse, the root itself hasn't even finished growing, which makes the whole situation way more critical. That tooth is in serious, serious trouble. So, how do we fix this? The modern solution is a procedure called a root canal. But before we get into how it works, we've got to talk about some of the myths that are still floating around, misinformation that can be genuinely dangerous. It's time to separate the facts from the fiction. You've probably heard claims like this one, maybe online or in a documentary. It's a really shocking statistic, and it's designed to make you think there's this terrifying link between root canals and awful diseases like cancer. But this is a classic, textbook example of confusing correlation with causation. See, this idea isn't new at all. It actually goes way back to the 1920s with something called the focal infection theory. It was this idea that an infection in your tooth could cause disease all over your body. It led to millions of people having their teeth pulled unnecessarily. But here's the thing. It was thoroughly disproven decades ago. Modern endodontics, that's the science of root canals, does the exact opposite of what that old theory claimed. It's not a cause of infection, it is the cure for the infection. The whole point is to get rid of the bacteria and save your natural tooth. And hey, the results really do speak for themselves. On the left, you see a tooth with a really obvious infection at the root. But look at the right. After a modern root canal, the infection is totally gone. The bone is healed. The tooth is saved. The procedure works. It's an incredibly safe and effective way to stop an infection dead in its tracks. Okay, but what about some alternatives you might hear about, like oil pulling? Well, when scientists took a hard look at all the studies out there in what's called a systematic review, they found that, yeah, there might be some minor benefits, but the overall evidence is pretty weak. A lot of the studies had a high risk of bias, which means we can't really trust the conclusions. It's not a replacement for a proven medical treatment when you've got a serious active infection.
But now, this is where it gets really exciting. What if we could go beyond just cleaning out the infection? What if we could actually bring that dead tissue back to life?
Well, that very idea is leading us to one of the most incredible frontiers in all of medicine. This is the field of regenerative endodontics. And just listen to that definition. We're not just talking about patching a hole here, we're talking about using the body's own biological instructions to replace damaged dentin, to regrow the root, and to repopulate the tooth with brand new, living cells.
So how on earth does this even work? Well, it all boils down to the three key ingredients of tissue engineering. First, you need stem cells, those amazing master cells in your body that can turn into new pulp tissue. Second, you need a scaffold, something for the new cells to grow on, which can be as simple as a blood clot. And third, you need growth factors. These are the proteins that act like little messengers, telling the stem cells what to do and when to grow.
And this isn't science fiction. This is happening right now. Here's what the healing journey looks like. Within the first year, you can see on an X-ray that the infection is gone. But then, over the next couple of years, something truly amazing happens. You can actually see the walls of the tooth getting thicker and the root getting longer. The tooth is literally rebuilding itself from the inside out.
And here it is, the big reveal. This is the exact same tooth we saw earlier. On the left, it was immature, infected, with a pretty bleak future. But look at the image on the right. This is 5 years after a regenerative procedure. The root is completely formed, the walls are thick and strong, and that patient has a healthy, living, fully functional tooth. It's just absolutely remarkable.
It really just makes you wonder. We've gone from simply pulling teeth to saving them, and now to actually regenerating their living core. It leaves us with a really profound question. If we can harness the body's own power to rebuild something as complex as a tooth, what else are we going to learn to heal next?